Civil society is a very simple concept. The difference between civil society and politicians is that civil society does not seek votes. Civil society stands on principle. When people join civil society and join the non-profit world, whether it is in human rights, is in development, they are basically saying, I am committed to this. That this is more than just a job.
Viongozi wa kiserikali wamekuwa mara nyingi wakitutembelea wakati wanataka kitu kutokamana na sisi, lakini wakipata wanatutupa.
Mbunge yoyote akija hapa yafuatilie shida ya jamii ya Kibira. Ufisadi ndio imekuwa mizizi ya Kenya. Ardhi ishanyakuliwa yote. Mazingira yetu si mzuri sana, ni chafu, maugonjwa mingi na hakuna mtu anafuatilia shida zetu. Ni kama pia serikali imetutenga.
Shirika ndo ruchunguza lichimanya binadamu anani anateseka achudzengeraiga mabona. Sasa ndiyo kwangu maana ochitaka kuweka madzireka kwangu ubevyo msikiti kobo kura ndani kuna chisima chinenywa siri bebe na pwani. Kini serikali uchimwambira mwaka uno mimi ndafu asiza mwetengenezerwa.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Muhuri wa wananisimamia kama ile kutoa maiti, kulikuwa hakuna mtu, kila mmoja aliogopa kunisongelea. Mtoto wangu wa kwanza ameuawa kisingizio ni Al-Shabaab, na unaye wa pili ameuawa kisingizio nicho. Muhuri imejitokeza kusaidia wale wanaodhulumiwa, lakini la kusikitisha kwamba haitambui serikali. Serikali inafanya vile inavyotaka na kitu chake. Kiamua itakuua, una sababu hauna, watakumaliza.
At least now we are trying to make a breakthrough on extrajudicial killings. I think Muhuri is a house name, not only in Mombasa, but in Coast Province and in the country in general, because we are doing a very dangerous job and we help a lot of people, because when people try to go to police station to report, 95% they're not being helped, so they come to us. Even the government itself, we are cooperating with the government departments on a daily basis, even at a time when they're accusing us of collaborating or financing Al-Shabaab. We were training the police, the judiciary, okay? Even now, we have embarked on registration on areas in Lamu inside in which they don't have money, they don't have personnel, so we use our own resources. The government tactics has put a lot of fear to the people. People see people have been shot dead. People have been arrested in front of the crowd or right on the street or in front of a mosque. When they try to intervene, the police come up with the guns and says, we are police, and people back off. Nothing happens. They saw the guy was arrested. He was never taken to court. A year, 2, 3. The family is crying. Where's this guy? And the government says nothing. And we go to police station trying to inquire. They say it's not us. And then they don't investigate. When you send a complaint to police, even if it's not them, they are obligated by law to investigate. They don't. They don't even tell members of the public that person who was arrested, we investigated ABCD. Nothing. So people's mind says the government can do anything, can kill anybody, can make anybody disappear, and nothing will happen.
The human rights movement in its history has always been opposed by those who seek to usurp power for their own ends, and the nature of the human rights movement is to oppose that. I think we are still very much in a better place than we were 20 years ago. But you do see attempts all the time to try and roll back the gains of the Constitution. You see efforts to close space using the war on terror as the excuse. But at the same time, you have a thriving civil society, you have voices that speak out, you have a media here that's able to report in ways that it couldn't have 20 years ago, even as they continue to struggle to retain and keep their space. We have a public that is well aware of its rights, they're civically empowered, and now they need to exercise those rights and continue to remain vigilant. Every government needs a watchdog from civil society, and as does Kenya.
Tangu nimezaliwa hapa, nimekulia hapa, nimesoma huku, lakini sioni lolote. Bali uzito unazidi kuongezeka. Mahali ya kuishi hatuna, tunakaa kama wanyama. President alikuja katuambia tutawapatia miliki ya ardhi. Anapoenda anatuacha hivyo hivyo. Mwingine akija ni hivyo hivyo. Kwa hivyo sisi tumewazoea. Ukisikia nje utasikia tunaambiwa mko na maendeleo, mko na lami, lakini shida ile iko hapa ni sisi wenyewe tunajua shida yetu. Tutaifanya vipi?
Throughout the world, every single major change in the world, in Kenya too, has been led by that active accountability function civil society. We got multipartyism in this country in 1992 because of that framework of civil society that's holding government to account, that's challenging government. We got a new constitution in 2010 because for 20 years plus, civil society has been talking and working with communities to say we need a new constitution. It is what changes societies for the better. It's what makes the marginalized become visible. So yes, sometimes it will step on people's toes. Yes, it will make people in power who don't want freedom, who don't want humans to have the full dignity of life, become uncomfortable, and they begin to challenge them, and they begin to smear them, they begin to abuse them and arrest them.
A lot of the benefits are intangible, and they're the sort of thing that you're not going to miss until it goes away. Freedom of expression, freedom of association, all the basic rights and freedoms which civil society has been instrumental in fighting for. There's been a concerted campaign by government, very conscious and well-organized and well-funded campaign to demonize and to delegitimize civil society.
Ni Wakenya wataamua au ni ma-NGO wataamua katika kura?
It would not be necessary to attack civil society if civil society wasn't making an impact, and making an impact on impunity and on corruption and on politicians' ability to do whatever they please without facing any consequences. I think if you repeat a message, it begins to gain traction, and Kenyan politicians are very adept at manipulating people, at manipulating people's divisions, at manipulating ethnic differences in order to cement and solidify their positions.
Foreign funding is one of the tactics now against critical civil society. Everybody, every single sector in the world depends upon foreign funding. Governments, including the Kenyan regime today, depends upon foreign funding. The biggest companies which we embrace in this country have foreign funding. You never hear government criticizing them.
I think civil society should have access to a variety of funds. We should have variety of sources of funds and of resources, whether local, international, regional. We do have to account for the funds that we receive. As far as the funds coming from foreign sources, the fact of the matter is that we pay taxes as civil society. I think we're a lot more reliable in doing that than many of the politicians who like to, cast aspersions on us.
they talk of slum upgrading when their main aim is to get funding from the foreign countries. They have been talking about slum upgrading for many years. If they were to if it was so, then we won't be having the Kibera slum, Mukuru Gwajenga slum, or even in Madale slum. Today, if you go to Kibera, you will find so many NGOs there talking about slum upgrading, on how they can help better life of people there in Kibera or even in Madale. But nothing has changed.
We always try at defending the human rights, talking about the gayism. If the Western countries want us to embrace gayism and to get rid of our traditions, which we've successfully gotten rid of because of the influence of the civil societies. We have seen the rot in the society today because of the civil society. They have never appreciated what we were born to be, what we stood for, what our forefathers told us in the informal schools. So my question is the continued need of human rights helping us in a way? To me, I think it's no. We have seen civil societies, they sometimes try to identify with the politics. And civil societies and NGOs in Kenya, they always thrive where there is war, where there is famine, where there is lack of strong structure. So it's in a way, the civil societies are only meant to benefit from the unfortunate situation of African societies.
Nimekuwa na shaka kidogo kwa civil society. First of all, ni watu ambao wengi wao wako based within Nairobi. Hawaendi rural areas. Unakuta wale ambao wako Nairobi ndio wanaona civil society, na wakiona civil society pengine kuna maandamano fulani imeitishwa. Ndio unaona wamekari bana sijui nini. Baada hapo mambo ya civil society imeisha. A common man mwenye ako rural areas, wakati kwa mfano wakati wa mama walikuwa na my dress my choice, walikuwa supported civil society, lakini kuna mama mwingine huko rural areas mwenye hata anaweza kudhulumiwa njia fulani na hata kuna mtu anamfikia.
Civil society has to get off their butts in Nairobi and go down. They have to start working with ordinary people. It's a slow process. It's hard. It's sometimes very, very frustrating. But there's no other way to do it.
I think civil society, to begin with, is like all other stakeholders within a country, very important for the country to thrive. I think civil society, after this last election, went either through its shocks or has, experienced suppression. It could be one of the two. We know, for instance, that there have been, efforts to control the kind of resources that they receive. And that may be one of the reasons why we don't see as much activity and vibrance as we used to see.
If you work in human rights, you have to be an optimist. And I actually think we're nowhere near the end of human rights. In fact, the human rights movement is in its infancy. It's essentially a creation after the Second World War. It's not that we are at where we need to be, but there is no finish line for the human rights movement. There is no finish line for democratic space. But the idea is to have as many empowered and informed citizens at any given time that can provide voice and seek to hold their governments accountable. You have an empowered citizenry that comes to the polls in huge percentages each time there's an election, despite the shortfalls of every election that we have and the various problems. But the Kenyan public continues to show up on election day and stand in long lines to cast their vote. What it signals is a faith in the democratic process that despite the odds, there are millions of individuals in this country that are willing to make this happen in their own way.
You've got a generation of young people growing up who have no hope, no possibilities, no future, and they will not continue to accept to be manipulated and to live in misery while a small clique of people, basically steal national resources and live in complete luxury at the expense of the rest of the people. This is really, as we're seeing around the world, a permanent struggle. The minute you relax, the minute you sort of stop pushing, the other side wins. I think as civil society, we have been fighting these battles and we intend to continue fighting them until they're won. There's never a final victory. You have to keep on defending whatever you've gained.
Kuna umuhimu wa hawa watu wajaribu kuja kutuongea na sisi na watusaidie. Kwa hivyo tunaomba hawa kama wanaweza kuja, tuko tayari kufanya kazi na wao, watusaidie. Kitu ambaye naweza weka mbele sana, nataka watoto wasome, wajue waje kujisaidia kama wao, lakini kusema kusaidika na serikali hatuoni, tumevunjika moyo kabisa. Yeah.
Bila civil society, hii Kenya bado ingekuwa kwenye enzi ya giza. Maana kidogo wale wanakuja na uwezo, wana empower people economically. Sasa wananchi huwa tayari kidogo wanaanza kujua haki yao through au civil society. Civil society ni watu muhimu na tuwezi fanya bila civil society pia ndani ya nchi. Kulingana na vile uhusiano ilivyo kati ya serikali na wananchi wake. Lazima civil society wawe part and parcel of this ya nchi hii.